Yo, what's up guys, it's me Jake here, and today I'm going to be doing manga review, which I haven't done really in like a month or so now. I've been really just uploading like manga shopping with me, manga reading logs, and manga hauls. Actually, my most recent video is manga shopping with me, so if you haven't watched that already, card's going to be up here. But to start this whole video off, I'm going to be talking about a series that everyone deemed one of the worst manga they've ever read in their lives. And I'm here to kind of break the mold in that trend, as I think this was actually garnering a lot, and a lot I mean of hate, once the first volume dropped. Orient. If you haven't already done it already, follow me on Instagram, the link's in the description below, because I actually talked about this a lot on my Instagram story for the past couple days, but I'm going to be telling you my thoughts and really what I think about Orient here, because I'll be honest, I'm not with that crowd that hates this series. I'm actually on the crowd of the complete opposite. I read the first 4 out of the first 7 volumes, and I know you may be saying that's not a good judgment, because, oh, it might get worse over time, yada yada yada, you still have 3 volumes to read. Well, these were peak anyway, so why would I think, oh, it's going to become bad? I'm just going to expect Shinobu Ohtaka to be consistent, because she already did that with Magi, so why would I expect her to get a huge dip if I think it's already consistent enough? I don't know, but I'm going to start off with saying I loved Orient, and I will say this volume alone, volume 4, it was one of my favorite shonen volumes I've read in a really long time. We learned a lot about Musashi, and Musashi as just a protagonist was a really, really great, huge development in this volume, and I really do love that, and it just gives you a lot of insight on his character, so yeah. But if you don't know anything about Orient, here's going to be a little bit of a synopsis. Basically, follow this kid named Musashi. We don't know his last name at all throughout the whole series so far, so we're just calling him Musashi. He has a friend named Kojiro Kanemaki, and his dad, but they are samurai, in a world where demon gods kind of rule the world, and samurai are kind of expelled, and kind of people throw rocks at them, and they hate these samurai people, but it's not the same for Musashi. Musashi actually dreams of making a band of samurai with Kojiro to kill all these demon gods when they grow up. And this is where the whole series starts, because he lives in a mining village, and he's a miner, but Kojiro can't really do that because they're kind of outcasted. And so one day he goes on this mining trip, which is where he's supposed to become an actual man, and actually the demons are there, and that's because the whole mining was so they could feed the demons. So what does he do? He decides to stand up for himself, and Kojiro knew there was going to be a little bit of trouble purely because Musashi kind of like told him there was probably going to be trouble, and Kojiro came and backed him up. And that's where their whole band of samurai starts, and I will say is very, 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 very different, as it's not a kind of past samurai series. It definitely has a lot of futuristic elements in it, aka the main reason people hated this is because they're samurai with motorcycles. I don't get it. Like, it's actually trying to do something different, and that's why people are hating on it. Because, to be honest, I really liked that addition. It made it feel less stereotypical samurai series. It put itself in a definite line of fire when doing that, because I know a lot of people who are fans of samurai series probably dislike this because of that. But it's trying to not make the stereotypical shonen samurai like the Rurouni Kenshins, and even non-shonen samurai series like Vagabonds and the Blades of the Immortals. It's trying to do something different with its power system, and I really like that, because it makes it so much more you can do. And I think that's one thing that Shinobu Ohtaka really did really well in Magi, is she made it so she can do so much very early on with the politics, with the Magi system, and she made it so this world was already huge enough in itself that she can make a 30-volume series quite easily. And I feel like she did the same thing with Orient. She made a series that can last a really long time if she really wanted to. And I think that's definitely what these mangas are trying to do, because if you haven't already watched that like Day in the Life of Manga video, that's how they make their money. They want their series to run as long as possible so that they make as much money as possible. I think Shinobu Ohtaka does that really well. I will say, one thing I will actually say, which might be a little weird, that this actually does better than Magi, is that it has way more consistent, amazing art. By that I mean, I feel like every other chapter has an amazing double-page spread, which I'll be starting to show them right here. I think every chapter has an amazing one, or every other chapter, because Magi didn't really have this for a really long time. They didn't have it till like the second half of the series. But because Shinobu Ohtaka did Magi, and has been more experienced nowadays that she can do this more consistently. I feel like that was the main reason it wasn't happening in Magi, is because she couldn't do it in way as consistent because she didn't have the experience to do that yet. It's the same thing with Atsushi Okubo with Soul Eater to Fire Force. If you look at Soul Eater's art, it's nowhere near as good as Fire Force is, and Fire Force is a weekly series, and Soul Eater was a monthly series. That's because Atsushi Okubo had way more experience when he went into Fire Force than he did with Soul Eater. Because when he went into Soul Eater, he only had experience from Beichi, which was his cancel work with only 20 chapters. So of course it's not going to go the same way. But that's it for me talking about the art. But I do think Shinobu Ohtaka's art style fits this series very well. The covers are straight gas. I like most of the characters really well right now. Like Kojiro, he starts off a little annoying, but once you get the hang of Kojiro, he's great. I really like Sumigi. And this dude is such a Chad. I think this guy is going to be a really good big bad, and I really cannot wait to see what happens. This volume has a huge twist with Musashi as well, which I really liked that they didn't do it off rip. This is something that they did that a lot of shonen series do off rip, and it's a very big trope. But I like how they saved this trope for 4 volumes in. So it actually impacts you way more because you already have time with this character, so it impacts you a lot when you see this trope, and I really do love that they used it at this point. So I will say, Shinobu Ohtaka knows what she's doing. The tropes she's using are working really well nowadays, and I will say, that volume, amazing. You have to read Orient if you haven't. If you really like Magi, you will probably like Orient, and my one thing that Orient doesn't have that Magi does is politics. I know politics were a very major thing in Magi. They were basically the driving point in the whole Magi series, so not having politics in Orient is a little bit weird, but I can easily see how Shinobu Ohtaka can really bring politics into the series of Orient, because she already has shown 3 bands of samurai. Of course, we have the main one, the Kanamaki band, which is Musashi, Kojiro, and Sumigi, but we also get the other ones of the Takeda band, I think that's how you say it, and the Sameda band. I can't say the other 2, but we've seen those 2 already, and they definitely had all 3 of them have very different ways of running their own bands of samurai, so I can easily see how there would be kind of conflict between samurai bands when we get to the later on volumes. So easily can see politics coming into Orient at one point, because I feel like that's going to be a major plot point later down the line, is how different bands kind of go about things and how they kind of interact with each other. I feel like that's going to be a big thing, and if it's not, I'm wrong, but I can see Shinobu Ohtaka really going into that, because with Magi, it was kind of the same way. It didn't really start political, but once we saw past Dungeon Arc, and once we saw where Alibaba was, and we saw what was happening, we got the politics again, and we started getting a lot more political with the series. Yes, you can just say right off after the Dungeon Arc where Aladdin landed, and that was pretty political too, so I can say, yeah, but I feel like Orient is definitely trying to work itself up to getting to that political level before getting 2 volumes in and automatically being at that political level. So it kind of is more dramatic, and you already see these bands a lot more than you did see those kind of countries in Magi, and you see those different Magis in Magi. It's something that I think Shinobu Ohtaka will probably be planning to do later down the line than right off rip, because I think Magi is definitely my favorite political manga out of everything. Yes, you can say AOT, but I think Magi actually handled the politics better than AOT. AOT handled the story better than Magi, because the ending of Magi kind of did feel rushed. I will very much agree to that. It did kind of feel rushed. And AOT, you can kind of say the same. I didn't really think it was a bad ending at all. I thought it was very, overhated. But I will say, that's one thing I think Orient's going to build up to very soon, now that we have what happened in Volume 4. I think we're going to see a lot of that political kind of stances coming into play as time goes on. But I will say this as well. I think the power system is also really good, even though there is basically not really a major one. It's more about the demon metal blades, their wielder, and what kind of soul they have, which is kind of interesting. It kind of is generic as well a little bit, where your soul is definite color. So if you're a blue soul, you're always going to be a blue soul. If you're a red soul, you're always going to be a red soul. If you're a yellow soul, you'll always be a yellow soul, etc., etc., etc. So it kind of makes sense, and it's very easy to explain, but the only thing that really annoys me is how their color system has a lot of stuff to do with colors, and their power system has a lot to do with colors, kind of like Build King, but it's a manga, so it's black and white, so it's kind of weird, but they do say it a bit, and once you know the character, you know their soul color. So Kojiro is blue, Yeah, that makes sense, because when you look at his color design when on volume 2, a lot of it's blue. So that kind of stuff makes sense. And a lot of that power system, I do really like the power system on like, you know, the colors and how that's the major factor of it. But I do think it will work down the line once you see all the characters, and once you kind of interact with characters, find out what soul color they are, you can kind of just remember it yourself, which I don't mind, because I have a pretty damn good memory, so I can remember that stuff pretty easily. And I will say, I think this manga is just very solid. I think I've been reading it, and I would say, I think I would give it a solid 8.5 plus out of 10, because of course I've only read the first 4 volumes, and I will be honest, I think that volume 4 had very, very heavy Alibaba vibes when it came to flashbacks, and it really hit. I really liked that flashback for Musashi, and I really liked what we were given. I think it was one of my favorite shonen flashbacks I've ever read, and I will say that it definitely contends with a lot of the big ones that we have already. I like how they didn't just give you a flashback right off rip in the first volume or the first or second volume to show, oh, this is what the character was like as a kid. They let you get to know Musashi, and then you got to see why Musashi was like that, which I really did like. They give you a lot of time to really get the feel of Musashi's character before you actually got to see why Musashi was still like this and why he wants to complete his dream so bad. So really did like that. I definitely highly suggest Orient. If you have yet to read it already, please go ahead and do yourself a favor and read it, because everyone hated on it once it came out, and I think that was just so stupid. I think they shouldn't have just given it a 1 volume, because for me, I'm not someone that gives it 1 volume. I'm someone that gives it a couple before I actually give my thoughts on it, like I did just now. I read not all 4, but I read the first 4 before I even gave my thoughts, so this is going to be a little bit of a first impression review. But I'll say this right now, I think it was very annoying how a lot of people just came out and said it was bad, don't read Orient, yada yada yada, because even I liked Volume 1. I did really enjoy Volume 1, really liked Musashi in Volume 1, Kojiro was pretty cool in Volume 1, but Musashi was just such a good pro tag, and I really want to see what happens next. So after this video, I'm probably reading 5, 6, and 7. I'll be very honest. I just want to give my thoughts about Orient so far. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you guys next time. Peace!